Greetings, Roseanne fans, Roseanneaholics, and Roseanne Maniacs. Welcome to Roseanne Retrospectives. I'm Scott.
I'm Blake.
I'm Pat.
This is the podcast where we dive into the Roseanne subdimension. What is the Roseanne subdimension? Well, in the series finale of the show, the Roseanne subdimension is revealed when we learn that Roseanne has really been writing a book about her life, and what we have been watching is her version of the story. In an effort to distinguish the Roseanne subdimension from the Roseanne reality, we review each episode of the show. Today, we will be talking about Season 1, Episode 3, DIVORCE, or the episode where Darlene tries to make popcorn with an electric blanket. Blake, you were telling me that the title is actually a reference to a country song?
Yeah, a country song.
Is that the same name?
Yeah, same name.
The country song was called DIVORCE.
Do you know who sings it?
No, but I think we should look it up.
Johnny Paycheck?
That would be awesome.
I hope so.
I read somewhere where somebody said that a late Johnny Paycheck looks like an early Steve Earle, and I thought that was pretty cool.
He's in jail, isn't he? He went to jail.
He
might be
jail.
dead right now.
No, he's alive.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Steve Earle is alive.
Oh, okay. I was talking about Johnny Paycheck.
Oh, Johnny Paycheck is dead.
Johnny Paycheck, he got into a bar fight. And I think he might have killed somebody.
That sounds right. Yeah, he was a hard guy.
This
He had a ponytail and a mustache.
Yeah.
Anytime you get the combination of a ponytail and mustache.
I just thought you were making somebody up. Funny name.
He sounds like a made-up character.
No. Yeah, he sounds like somebody from The Simpsons when they were good.
What's his big song? Johnny Paycheck's?
Isn't it Take This Job and Shove It?
He did sing that. Yeah, I think that is it. He had another one, too. All right, so we're just going to dive straight into the episode today. Not a lot of housekeeping. Episode kicks off with
Roseanne giving DJ the worst haircut that a boy could ever want.
Right. Scene 1, we are in the kitchen, and Roseanne is cutting DJ's hair.
And immediately we see that Jackie has on a rodeo sweatshirt. It is a terribly ugly sweatshirt.
It's really good.
No, I mean,
It's phenomenal.
It's bad ugly.
It's a great sweatshirt. She's sitting at the table reading a tabloid for some reason. I guess they invited her over. So DJ's getting his hair cut, and Roseanne is joking about cutting his ears off, and then joking about him needing a flea bath.
Because he's a dog, because he's an animal, because he's a child.
He's not a kid.
It's really kind of awkward. Darlene says, "Looking good, Scissorhead." Mm-hmm. It's weird that she gives him that compliment because it does not seem in her character, and Scissorhead does not seem like a very big insult.
Roseanne finishes her haircut, and Jackie starts relaying a story that she's reading out of the tabloid about a woman stabbing her husband 37 times.
I've got written in my notes as husband murder joke. That's it.
It is a husband murder joke.
Well labeled.
Joke, but that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Although, they normally wouldn't have something that was just a generic crime like that in the tabloids.
No. The tabloids are reserved for special crimes.
Yeah.
It's just a stabbing.
It's not really a special crime.
It's a routine wife kill husband.
Lots of men have been stabbed 37 times. The stories I could tell.
Well, Roseanne is just glad that she showed some restraint.
Good one, Roseanne.
Get it? Because she hates her husband and would stab him more.
Yeah, that's the reality. That's the Roseanne reality. The Roseanne subdimension, she just made a joke that everybody thought was charming.
In the reality, she said, "Boy, I'd love to stab my husband 37 times or more." And speaking of Roseanne's husband, he enters the room in a vest that is splattered with paint. Apparently, he's been doing some painting contracting today.
It totally looked like there was like a hand, just a hand print on his vest in white paint.
It does. Well, it's set design or costume design.
Yeah,
slaps a handprint on there.
But in the context of the show, that bodes ill.
Oh yeah. What was going on the job?
Yeah, I don't want to think about that. Maybe it was his own hand. Maybe it was someone else's hand.
It was someone else's hand. It was a small hand.
He didn't
painted the hand on there to freak everybody out.
He might not have been working
It
today.
was a cry for help. He just painted that hand on his vest. And he's like, maybe somebody will ask me about this, but they probably won't. We'll see, though. If they ask me about this, then I know they care.
I think it's more of just he was sitting in his truck drinking for the last 8 hours, and he's like, "Oh crap, I gotta look like I did some work."
That'd be
And he
awesome.
Slaps
his hand on his chest.
So Dan comes in and he immediately goes to the fridge for a beer, or actually he asks for a beer, and Jackie is like, "Oh, you want a beer?" And
Get me one, too.
uh-huh.
No, she doesn't say that.
Yeah, she does.
She does.
She does. She pulls the rug out from under him, so he obliges and he goes and gets himself a beer.
Fine.
They both have a beer. And then he asks what's for dinner, and
Roseanne's like a stabbings.
37 wounds. But Roseanne is not happy about this asking because tonight, this Tuesday night, is date night, and Dan Connor should know about that. This is a tradition, apparently, in the Connor household. We might not hear about it again in the future, but
I don't think we do.
We never hear about it as
Season
happening
1.
in the past, and it never happens again in the future.
right.
This was something they wanted to turn into a tradition, and then they just both forgot about it eventually.
Mm-hmm. This was fulfilling a long ago promise about taking you on a date one day.
Here's my question. Does that mean that every episode of Roseanne occurs on a Tuesday?
That's a great question. No, they have some weekend episodes.
Aw.
Jackie does laundry at the house on weekends.
Wait, they go bowling on a Saturday,
Yep.
I think. I think it's a Saturday.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, man, I can't wait till we get to that episode. Ugh.
The bowling
That was
episode.
awful.
That one's pretty good.
This one is pretty awful, too.
Yeah, this is actually probably the worst one that we've seen so far.
This is by far the worst we've seen. There's no payoff. It's
No.
all setting up.
There are only 3 episodes so far, but this is the worst. So Roseanne has big plans for date night, and she's not about to let Dan weasel out of it. Dan is not excited about this at all.
Okay, so at some point in this, Roseanne tells Dan to go up into the bedroom and lie down. When that's confusing because at the end of the scene, Roseanne and Dan walk into their bedroom, which is on the first floor.
It's a major logistical blunder that the writer should be really ashamed of.
I don't really understand where the bedrooms are.
No. Even though we see them go into the bedroom later, and it's in its normal location behind the living room.
It's also
as
the
it
first
should
time we
be.
see the bedroom.
Yeah, there's an extended scene in the bedroom and the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, they
It's a
did
combined set, so I guess the studio audience could see both. So the plan for the evening is that Jackie is going to be babysitting the kids while the parents go on their adult date.
that. Oh, wait, did we talk about the coupons?
No, we didn't talk about
No,
the
we
coupons.
didn't.
So, okay, so here's the deal with this episode is there are many points in the episode when they have a setup that you think is going to cause conflict. Then it doesn't.
No, that is a good point. This is the first of several setups that go nowhere.
Yeah, the setups go nowhere, and
I also
like
felt like
bizarre.
Jackie going to the mall was going to pay off somehow.
Right, Jackie's going to be... Jackie, the plan is that Jackie's going to babysit the kids, but before she does that, she's got to go to the mall and return a blouse. This is where Jackie's fashion sense comes into real question, because she is wearing this hideous rodeo shirt that really has a lot of ironic value now, but
back then it just would have been lame.
it's great for like a costume party, but
Nah, I guess she.
Yet she had to return a blouse. That's the inherent contradictory logic.
right, and I'd love to see whatever blouse that she's returning for being too ugly.
There were some hideous shirts back then.
There were, and we're going to see a lot of them on
Yeah.
Roseanne.
Most of them are on Roseanne.
Some of the worst fashion trends of the decades trickled through Roseanne.
They sure did. So they have these coupons for this
For the-
fancy restaurant that they want to go to. This really fancy restaurant, and they have coupons for it. Think about that.
It's the Lanford Inn, apparently a seafood restaurant. They've got a
a
2-for-1
buffet seafood restaurant.
with a 2-for-1 Tuesday.
So your first thought is they're going to lose this coupon, or this coupon's going to apply to another day, or the coupons are a year expired. None of those are the case. The whole coupon thing goes over very well. and you actually don't even hear about it anymore. It's really just a pretext for why they're even going to this restaurant in the first place, because I think they're ostensibly supposed to be lower income. They're not able to go to this fancy seafood buffet.
Lower class.
Lower income sounds better.
Blue collar. They're blue collar.
Blue collar.
Blue collar people do not go to fancy ass seafood restaurants.
They go to Long John Silver's.
Yes.
Long John Silver's. Wait, did they have those back then?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just didn't have the combination Long John Silver's A&W root beer places.
Oh, that's a good place.
If they did have those, that's where they would be going, but they didn't though.
Okay. So, yeah, the coupon is actually not going to... It's not the setup for future conflict in the episode.
No, neither... We can ruin it right now.
Yeah,
neither is Jackie babysitting. This whole episode is full of great standard sitcom setups for wackiness that don't go anywhere.
Yeah, there's absolutely zero conflict in this entire episode except for the conflict that we imagined happening. That's the only conflict we could find.
Correct. We move from the kitchen to the parents' bedroom / bathroom. We actually start in the bathroom. This is our first look at where the parents live. So Becky is standing with Roseanne in the bathroom as she prepares for her night on the town. She's in a pretty beige, drab-looking gown, and she's putting makeup on, and Becky's trying to give her all these instructions about how to put it on to look hot. And Becky really looks kind of, like, the way she's dressed in this scene makes her look like a doll.
Like an American Girl doll.
Yeah, an American Girl doll. That's exactly it.
No, man, this is like a conflict between past femininity and then modern femininity. The mother-daughter conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Mother's like, we put the makeup on this way. And the daughter's like, the modern way is to put the makeup on this other way. This is the modern way, Mom. I'm going to help you. And it's the conflict, you know? It's like age-old, eternal conflict.
The eternal conflict about putting on makeup.
Okay, so it's a really Roseanne thing to include in the Roseanne show. I'm just saying.
It is. Generational differences.
You know,
that makes
generational performances.
Young versus old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to me.
So Becky's giving out some free makeup advice because she wants something. Because Becky doesn't do anything unless there's potentially something in it for Becky.
What? She was doing it for pay. She was
Becky,
doing it. A what? Really?
Becky wants to babysit.
That went over my head.
Oh, yeah.
Shit.
I mean, I just put that together right now.
It's a good call. I didn't think about that either. I might just be pulling
that out of my ass, but who knows?
I thought Becky was just like that as a person.
Yeah, she was just like, you're doing it wrong, Mom.
No, Becky has ulterior motives. I mean, it's weird to stand in the bathroom with your parents, period.
Says you.
I remember standing in the bathroom with my parents, and they would get ready for, like, a date.
So Becky really wants to babysit this evening. She doesn't want to be under Jackie's control. She wants to have complete authority over the house. And she goes into a monologue about how Cindy Clark's mom let her babysit when she was 13, so Roseanne should let her babysit. So this means that Becky is 13, which is the first age marker I think we get on the show.
Yeah.
That's younger than I thought.
Really?
The actress must be definitely older than 13.
Yeah.
Honestly,
yeah, she looks probably closer to 15, 16.
Yeah.
So
here's the kicker.
Cindy Clark's mom might have let Cindy Clark babysit when she was 13, but Roseanne is quick to point out that Cindy Clark's mom is a drunken slut. That's an exact quote.
That's something they could say on TV in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. And Roseanne will repeat it for emphasis later on. But she does say to Becky, you know, if Jackie doesn't show up, then fine, you can babysit. And she says it really sarcastically and meanly because she doesn't think Jackie's really going to blow off this adult obligation, but we'll see what happens. So Becky is appeased by all of this and runs out of the room. Darlene has been in the other room, I guess, presumably putting on football makeup under her eyes.
Which is weird.
It's a little weird, but, you know, she's a tomboy.
No, it's not weird. She plays football or something.
She plays baseball.
No, baseball. So baseball makeup, and she plays it, so what else is she going to use the mascara for?
If they made the show today, there would be an episode about her being on the football team, is my guess, because
cool.
that's like a modern topic.
Darlene would be a bomb at football.
She probably would. She's a good fighter. She's
Can
tough.
see that.
Yeah.
She'd be the quarterback.
Tight end.
Tight end. Oh.
No, she'd be the quarterback. I know what I'm talking about.
I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know.
She'd be one of the people with the
She'd
pads
probably be a
and
kicker, honestly. She'd
Yeah.
probably be a kicker, realistically.
yeah. No, there was a
She'd be
young
a
girl.
kicker.
There was a young girl running back who was doing really well.
Running back shit.
She got a lot of publicity recently, and then there was a lot of backlash about how she shouldn't be playing.
Because she had her period. They were like, we don't know how this is going to affect the ball. The ball might bounce harder. We don't even know.
It could.
How that
You
will
don't even
change
understand
things.
it.
Well, there are kids on the other teams. I don't know how to tackle a girl. I can't do
Especially
that.
not when she's on her period. What if she bleeds on me?
Right. So this is where we get to see Dan's dress-up outfit. He's got his nice little tiny clip-on tie.
He is so tiny. His little tiny tie.
Teeny tiny.
Teeny tiny tie.
And then Roseanne snaps it off, and he's like, my clip-on, no.
No, who I am.
Gets a tie. And that tie is as tiny as the clip-on tie was.
And he doesn't have to put it together, which means that he probably has ties in his closet that are already tied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's prepared. He tied it once, and then
That's all you need.
it's gonna be tied for
He
the rest
never
of its
learned how to
lifespan.
tie his tie. Roseanne learned how to tow it.
Mm-hmm.
And she
Toe it.
tied
Tie it.
How to
But
tie
she
it.
made fun of him so
Tie it.
bad that now he just keeps them already tied in his closet.
Mm-hmm.
Because he fears her.
Speaking of Dan fearing Roseanne, Roseanne starts fantasizing about dancing this evening. So they're going to the Lanford Inn to have dinner, and apparently there's dancing at the Lanford Inn. And this is really exciting for Roseanne. She really wants to dance with Dan. Dan's not having any of this though,
No, he's not.
because men don't dance with women after their marriage.
Which is what, Roseanne says that. And then
Because
Dan's
your
like,
soul gives up.
Well, I know one thing I saw whenever Roseanne comes out of the bathroom and walks through the bedroom is there's an armchair sitting in the middle of the bedroom for no reason.
Maybe that's her nursing armchair from when DJ was a baby.
That could be, actually. That would make some sense because, I don't know.
Maybe that's a weird touch that Roseanne was like, no, listen, every woman has a nursing armchair in her bedroom. It's from when she had the last baby. You guys know about this, right?
Or maybe there was just nothing to put there, so they put a chair there.
Yeah, maybe it was a prop.
Yeah.
Roseanne promises Dan that he's the only bimbo in his life. Or
She's the only bimbo in his life.
she's the only bimbo in his life, or something.
He's the only bimbo in his life would make sense.
It would. All right, so we cut to the living room of the Connor household where the parents are getting ready to go out on their fancy date to the seafood buffet restaurant. Becky is excited because she actually gets to babysit because for some reason Jackie hasn't shown up yet. I guess it took longer at the department store for her to return her blouse than she anticipated.
This is one of those scenes where it's like, will Jackie return or will she not return?
Oh my god, what's going to happen? What if Jackie doesn't return? Is something going to go bad because Becky had to babysit? Something's got to go wrong.
Yeah, so anyway, Becky got to babysit.
Giving Becky good instructions for babysitting, making sure she doesn't open the door for anybody.
There's that one.
She doesn't, whenever they answer the phone, that they don't tell the people that the parents aren't home, but that
Instruction number 2. Then instruction number 3 is no fire.
no stove, no matches, no fire, laying down all the ground rules.
Then they leave, right? They leave the house.
This is where the chain of command gets questioned. Arlene's pissed that Becky is given some authority. So, of course, she wants authority too. So she asks Roseanne if Becky has a heart attack, will she be in charge? And Roseanne says yes, because that's a ludicrous scenario for a 13-year-old to be having a heart attack.
Do 13-year-olds even know what heart attacks are?
Oh, yeah, they know what heart
Maybe,
attacks
yes.
are.
Maybe
That's like one of...
Sure, but in the 80s?
No way. No.
I don't think they even discovered what a
Before
heart attack
1992,
was
they
until
didn't.
1989, so
Do kids even know anatomy in the 80s?
No.
course, when DJ hears that his slightly older sister is getting responsibility, he jumps on the bandwagon and suggests that if both Becky and Darlene have a heart attack, then wouldn't he be in charge? And Roseanne assures him that yes, if both of his sisters are dead, he will have the opportunity to babysit.
How morbid. Get to the part where they leave.
So they leave, but not before Roseanne is able to call Cindy Clark's mom a rich, drunken slut.
Because she can't afford babysitters.
That's it. Yes.
So
that's right. Because
Cindy Clark is rich.
Right. Becky wants compensation for her last minute babysitting. Yeah.
Roseanne just laughs in her face and she's like, "Your friend's mother is a rich, drunken slut."
Typical Roseanne fashion.
And then, so they leave, they shut the door, and then immediately the kids are like, "They're gone, right? They're gone. All right, we could do what we've been waiting to do this whole time." And they start creeping across the living room towards the parents' bedroom.
They start running across the living room. They bolt for
And then the parents butt their heads in the front door, and they're like, "Hold on a second, don't go through our dresser drawers." And the kids are like, "Damn it.
What do you keep in a dresser drawer when you're a parent?
Pornography." The kids were looking for porn.
Kids are looking for a traumatic experience. They're gonna find one. But Dan knows exactly what their plan is, and he leans in to the door after closing it real quickly and yells at them to stay out of the dresser drawers. And the kids are disappointed because apparently they can't just go look as soon as he closes the door again. But
I know. I mean, it's like they're not going to look now.
Right.
They're not going to look now. You can tell by their body language.
Mm-hmm. They're resigned. They realize Dan has an all-seeing eye and that he's going to know.
It's like, that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I was that kid, I would never give up that search.
Now it's time for the parents' fancy dinner date at the seafood restaurant that's got a giant boat trough full of seafood.
Yeah, the Lamford Inn is the fancy restaurant, the fancy seafood restaurant, and its signature, which the camera pans over as you were introduced to the Lamford Inn, is a giant boat filled with seafood.
Of which you can get food poisoning.
And lettuce, and I don't know what else. Like, it looked like just a huge mess, and it looked nasty.
It doesn't look like a fancy restaurant.
No, it looked like a cheap restaurant. Like, it has a buffet. It's not fancy.
Right.
Seriously.
But everyone's got, shirts and ties on and fancy dresses, so I guess we're
this is
led to...
like in the 80s.
This might be the fanciest restaurant in Lanford, so
Yeah.
we'll give them that. So the couple is being seated, and Roseanne walks in and immediately starts fingering the decorations hanging from the ceiling. Another sign that you're not in a fancy restaurant is there's netting hanging from the ceiling.
I love a good net in a restaurant.
She's just being a complete ass about the whole place. She's like, "I'm just gonna ironically comment on this whole place and just be a complete dick to everybody."
And she is.
The minute she enters that place, only a total Norm Macdonald there.
They get seated by their waiter named Charles, and
Charles seems like a nice dude. He seems like a very nice, congenial young man.
Mm-hmm. And
easily bullied.
And Roseanne takes advantage of that. Starts just kind of, she starts doing her whole ironic,
So what about you, huh, waiter?
So the couple is seated, and the waiter starts taking their drink orders. Roseanne, of course, wants something with an umbrella in it. Dan would like to see a wine list, but first orders a beer so he can get drunk while they're perusing the wine list to figure out just how drunk he wants to get. Roseanne continues to beg Dan to dance because this is all she really cares about, just seeing Dan cut loose and be romantic with her on their date night.
I think she just wants to see him embarrassingly gyrate his limbs in front of everyone so that she can reaffirm his inferiority.
Right. She wants Dan to feel subservient, so she does everything in her power to make that the case and to highlight his insecurities. Okay, so I'm going to posit that in the Roseanne reality, what happened was Dan and Roseanne showed up at the Lanford Inn dressed in garbage clothing and were denied at the door because they weren't meeting the dress code. That is my theory. So they went to Long John Silver's.
So that this whole thing in the reality, the Roseanne reality, potentially may have taken place in the Long John Silver's.
Yes.
And
Because
that's why there's a buffet, and that's why they can just dance.
And that's why they're so condescending towards the entire environment around them. It's all just a giant joke to them, kind of. They're enjoying it. They're having, yeah, I guess that's true. They're having a great time.
Yeah.
They're being in love.
Well,
Their love is
hold on
reaffirmed.
that.
Okay.
Hold on that.
Okay, so Roseanne is continuing to beg Dan to dance, and that's when they spot their good friend Patsy at the bar, flirting with a man who is not Bob. Her husband.
Her husband, supposedly.
Bob, her husband. So they immediately posit that he is her lover.
Love her.
She's
Love her.
flirting with a lover at the bar.
Scandalous.
In the Lamford Inn. How scandalous.
Very scandalous.
Roseanne's eyes are the worst at this point. They sparkle, literally, when she is speculating about Patsy's affair.
Mm-hmm.
There are all these sparkle points in her eyes.
Right, Roseanne delighting in this scandal that she's witnessing. Roseanne's really excited at the potential for blackmailing someone.
I guess, yeah.
And that's the first thing that comes to her mind, I think.
So Patsy comes over, and she's like, "Hey, guys.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?"
Yeah.
Roseanne's like, "Where's Bob?" And then Patsy gets a concerned look on her face and says, "Didn't you hear? Bob and I divorced like a year ago."
Right, and she's in college right now. Bob would never let her go to college, but since she was able to get a divorce to him, she's now back in school and living a great life. She's on a date. She's got to get back to her date, though. So it was really nice of her to come up to the Connors and say hello. Patsy, the actress, has actually been married to Jeff Goldblum for about, was it 8 years?
In the early 80s, they were married, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So she's a star.
Yeah, she's a legit star.
What was she doing on Roseanne?
Dating Bob.
Dating Bob.
Or no, not dating Bob. Divorcing Bob and dating this other man.
The other guy.
Well, really, though, the whole scene is basically the segue for Roseanne and Dan to discuss their relationship.
Right, but Dan is just like, boy, that's such a shame about Bob and Patsy. I'm glad she's doing so great. But Roseanne claims that what they just witnessed was a shattered woman.
It's odd.
It's odd.
I get that.
I think she just says it as a lead into her joke about how she's shattered and that the divorce was probably
absolutely.
because Bob wouldn't dance with her.
She just wants Dan to dance with her.
Right.
Why won't Dan dance with her?
So, the restaurant is a buffet, I guess, like some kind of seafood buffet. And there are couples kind of dancing around in it, but they really look in the way. There's not a dance floor. I don't really understand it.
Kind of shambling.
So Dan and Roseanne talk about how Bob and Patsy used to flirt all the time at the picnics that they used to go to together, and that it seemed like they had a really strong couple, but Roseanne says, it's the fighting that really keeps a couple together.
Roseanne cannot conceive of a relationship that does not have a substantial amount of conflict.
Right.
That is true.
That's sort of a key element of our whole thesis of the Roseanne subdimension / Roseanne reality.
Mm-hmm.
Even in her fantasy, Roseanne can only imagine conflict.
Yes. So Dan and Roseanne start talking about how much they hate each other, and how they have all these things that they do to each other that annoy them. Yeah, Dan brings up that Roseanne shaves her legs with his razor, and Roseanne brings up that he hangs his dirty underwear out on the doorknob. I don't know, they're just getting into a bunch of big petty shit, and they're just like passive-aggressively arguing with each other. They're both kind of joking about divorce, because Patsy got a divorce and liberated herself from the evils of marriage, and they're thinking, hey, maybe she's onto something. She's a college girl now. Maybe she knows something that we don't. Dan, I know Roseanne makes a joke at some point about killing Dan with household cleaning products. She hasn't really had a killing joke, per se, this episode, so she had to get that in.
I I know at some point Dan says we'll be together forever, but all of us know that he's going to die in 8 years.
Mm-hmm. Forever for him is
like the end of the
season 8.
Yeah, has a heart attack that he for real dies from, but Roseanne pretends he's still alive from it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole mess.
Yes, I know. Dan claims that were the two to separate, he would have no involvement in the children's lives, and that would be
scary.
That's kind of a passive.
At least he's truthful.
Shit.
Yeah, he's being honest because this is like a passive punishment for Roseanne, not for the kids. He's not thinking about punishing the kids, but this is his way of getting back at Roseanne, leaving the kids with her.
Holy shit!
She would just give them to Jackie though, because she doesn't care about these kids either.
I guess Jackie might be a better mother at this point.
Oh, for sure.
She would. She would.
Just because of less psychic trauma from having lived with Dan.
That is true. Jackie might be a better parent, but she's not the best babysitter. Speaking of all these kids living unsupervised, we cut to the next scene now where Darlene... we're back at the Connor household in the kitchen. Darlene runs in and starts getting ready to make some popcorn. She opens up a cupboard and grabs the single popcorn popper that has been conveniently placed for her by the set people. Becky runs in and immediately starts espousing her authority, telling her, "No, you can't do that. We can't use the stove. No fire, no matches. I'm in charge."
Smart Becky.
Becky's on top of things. She's being the responsible adult figure, 13-year-old adult. And Darlene's like, "I'm not going to use an oven, stupid." And that's when DJ comes in with a heating pad. So they're going to try and cook this popcorn with a heating pad. And immediately the audience is disappointed that we're not going to see the kids playing with matches or a stove.
They're just going to play with a heating pad, which might cause an electrical fire somehow.
Should the wiring in the kitchen be terrible, but
yeah, that's totally a possibility. However, it doesn't happen.
Not only are they not going to start a fire, but they're not even going to get to have popcorn because this is never going to work. Darlene lets DJ sit holding the popcorn over the stupid little heating pad. He's going to heat it to about 90 degrees, and it's not going to get any hotter than that. So the doorbell rings in the other room, and everyone goes crazy. These kids have no idea how to act when there's no adult supervision around. The doorbell rings, and it's Jackie. Finally, their adult supervision has arrived, but they won't let her in because they've been instructed not to open the door for anyone. And
I've actually written down it's because they are dicks.
And that would be true.
That is true. They're giving Jackie a bunch of shit for being late, which she shouldn't have been late, but...
No. She shouldn't have been. What's wrong with her?
I don't know.
She had to babysit. Jesus. So they lock her out of the front door. They run to the back door because they think she's going to come back there.
Mm-hmm.
They know she's going to come back there. That's the back door. And then Jackie sneaks up behind them.
Somehow, mysteriously, we don't understand the dynamics of the house.
She got inside the house somehow.
Jackie merged with the house wall. Jackie merged with the wall of the house and entered, or she came in through a window or something. And she startles the kids, screams at them while they're crouching by the back door waiting for her to enter because they want to surprise her. And that's it. That's the end of the scene. Kids are fine. The babysitter arrived. They didn't burn the house down. They didn't even get close to burning the house down. They got out a heating pad and tried to pop some popcorn.
Stupid kids.
So we cut back to the fancy seafood buffet restaurant where Dan is returning to his table. He just called home, and turns out everything's fine. He was real worried, but Jackie's back, and everything's going to be okay. Dan and Roseanne start discussing how all of the couples that they know have been divorced. They start thinking out how maybe that's not such a bad idea and they should get a divorce. And they're talking about kind of jokingly. I think in the reality, this was a conversation at the Long John Silver's where they were seriously yelling at each other about getting a divorce. They were making a huge scene. They had like hush puppy crumbs all over their face. And everyone had already left the Long John Silvers by that point because they were uncomfortable that this was going on.
They were the only people alone in the Long John Silvers.
And the employees are like looking at each other nervously. It's like, should we call the cops? Is this going to turn into one of those things that you read about in the news?
But the boat buffet, was that in the Long John Silvers?
No,
No.
no, they don't have those. That was
A
a
Roseanne invention.
no restaurant.
Fictionalizing her fight with Dan to be a mere lover's tiff.
Right.
All this being said, I kind of really want to go to a Long John Silver's and have hush puppies now. I would be down for that. Yeah.
This podcast has been sponsored by... No, just kidding.
I wish we had an unlimited hush puppy supply from Long John Silver.
That would be great.
Long John Silver's,
could-
if you're listening, I assume it's a person, right?
Yeah, Long John Silver. Mr. Silver, if
Mr.
you're
Silver,
listening.
if you're listening.
Please give me all your hush puppies. Or like a coupon for like an unlimited hush puppy week.
Just a week, even just a couple days.
Or a day. Just a day, Mr. Silver. Just a day of your hush puppy. I would eat that. I think that's a weird name for a product.
The hush puppy.
Yeah. Because part of it is puppy in it.
It's like,
Yeah.
hush, puppy?
Shut up, dog.
Hush.
Here's some cornbread.
Yeah, shut up,
Some
dog.
fried cornbread or something.
Popcorn shrimp is also delicious, though.
Yeah, I would take a lifetime supply of that
Yeah.
any day, Mr. Silver. Dan and Roseanne start fantasizing about how lovely it would be to be separated from one another. And Roseanne,
Oh, God, this is like for real their fight, their divorce fight.
yeah, and they start talking about all the stuff they would love to do if they got divorced. And Roseanne's going to enroll the kids in a Swiss boarding school because she wants to get them out of the house and get away from them.
And give them a top-notch education.
Mainly get away from them, but yes.
Yeah, mainly just not see them anymore.
And we all know that Switzerland has the best.
Oh,
Boarding
best
schools.
educational system ever.
Absolutely. And other than that, she would just quit her job and lie around and watch soap operas. She apparently has no dreams, despite what we're going to learn in a minute or two about all the dreams that she has.
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
She's not willing to share with Dan that she's got all these big hopes and dreams. Dan apparently has absolutely no hopes and dreams.
Yeah, he's just a dude.
He's going to watch football, presumably at her place. That's really all he can think about in terms of his divorced future. And that's probably pretty accurate. That's probably about all he'll do. So Patsy comes back up to the table. I guess she's wrapping things up with her date. It's going pretty well. They're going back to her place maybe for a little dessert, so to speak.
Yeah.
Her little red velvet cake.
Yeah. Ew.
Red wing.
There's some red wings. So Patsy says goodnight and hands Roseanne her new phone number. And this is where she thanks Roseanne for all of the inspiration she provided. There was a barbecue where she and Roseanne had a long talk, and Roseanne actually inspired her to go to college. Because Roseanne kept going on and on at this barbecue about all of these big dreams that she had and plans to be a writer and how nothing was going to stop her.
John Goodman stopped Roseanne from writing. She really didn't care that much about writing in the first place then.
No, man. No. I disagree. We're going to fight about
You
it.
think she really cared?
Yeah, she cared, and her dreams were crushed by having 3 children and having a former football player for a husband.
I do think that Dan's lack of support decreased her ability to fulfill her dream.
I think
Yeah,
both of you are delusional. I think she just didn't she was too lazy to pursue her dream.
That is
I think it's a mixture of the two.
I would like to read it that way. However, it's more satisfying to me to read it as John Goodman being sapping her creative urges.
Taking it out, yeah.
He's definitely doing that just by his lack of participation in the child rearing. He doesn't do anything productive. So Roseanne has to do everything. So
lazy dude.
And Roseanne gets this feeling of anxiety from having too much to do, and it stops her creative juices from flowing, I guess, and she can't write.
Maybe he's drinking all of her creative juices away.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Maybe.
So you think that Roseanne should still be able to write?
I think she's just being lazy.
Right. Well,
I mean, that's legit. She could just be being lazy and blaming Dan for it.
and
He's
She
a
is.
really easy target to blame. Though.
Exactly.
I could not blame her for blaming him.
no,
No.
but she does start writing after he dies.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
the writing room appears in, season 8, I think?
So that's very telling.
What
actually.
appears early on, she just admits that
doesn't-
she's been writing in season 8
Okay.
It's
okay.
very telling.
or
though,
season
that,
9, whatever the final season is.
that her writing would be pumped up after Dan's near death.
Yes.
Near death.
Well,
Near
near
death.
death in the subdimension and actual death in the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That would sort of say to me that he was preventing her from writing, which makes him a villain.
In a way. I think his presence probably prevented her from writing.
Yeah.
He's just too sexy. Probably he was distracting her too much.
Well, it might have been
Clearly.
His
right.
little ties, you know.
If I were...
Sexy ties.
Teeny ties.
So Patsy walks away from this conversation. She's going to go have sex with her date. And now Dan just feels bad because she brought up all of this stuff that Roseanne really wanted to do. And Dan starts to feel, rightfully, as though he has prevented her from doing these things.
Which he has.
Yeah.
Which he has, and that's fair.
Yes. He should feel bad because he's directly responsible in a lot of ways.
Does he make amends?
Kind of. He's starting to feel very insecure because he realizes that his wife was able to convince this woman essentially to get a divorce from her controlling husband indirectly. But this is what has happened.
He's married a powerful being.
Mm-hmm.
An alien.
This is where Dan starts to question whether or not Roseanne is terrestrial, or if she is from
Terrestrial or extraterrestrial?
beyond this earth.
Extraterrestrial.
She's truly an otherworldly woman.
A goddess, really.
But this brings up a conflict in Dan where, he starts to think about what the two of them want to do in the future and whether or not these future plans are going to intersect. Roseanne wants to write, but Dan wants to sit on the couch and drink beer and watch football. So,
Are those two plans compatible?
No, they're not.
sadly, no. And this is a real problem that probably should have been addressed before the marriage, but was not. And Dan, wants to know from Roseanne if she would end up pulling a patsy on him should their paths begin to diverge.
And he literally says that. Pulls a patsy.
Pulls a patsy.
A patsy. Oswald was a patsy.
So Dan asks, wouldn't you pull a patsy on... You wouldn't pull a patsy on me? And Roseanne responds with, I'm not going no place. I love you.
I'm not going no place.
Which means she is.
She's absolutely going someplace.
He was like, I'm well aware of the double negative. and I'm using it to my advantage.
As a writer, I'm well aware.
This is not compounding my negatives. This is a double negative.
Either she
I
uses
canceled it out.
double negatives in language, which means that she probably shouldn't be a writer, or she's not a very good one, or she's
Or
very
she's a
consciously
cool writer. She's
using
a
a
cool
double
writer.
negative,
Come on.
and she knows what she's saying.
I'm going with that.
I will go with that too.
She's
She knew what she
consciously
meant.
using that double negative.
It does come off as unnatural. Like, Roseanne will use these kind of, these... She'll alternate between being very well spoken and using poor grammar as convenient.
It could be code switching.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be poor writing.
Mm-hmm. It could be a combination of those things. But I do like your theory that she means this quite literally, that she's not going no place. That
That means she is going to a place.
She's going somewhere better.
somewhere.
She's going elsewhere.
Dan better watch out.
Better try.
But Roseanne reassures him and says that marriage with her is like a life sentence with no hope for parole. And that is a really good description of their marriage.
Yeah.
He does die.
Yeah, it's
That would make
yeah,
it a life sentence.
I would
exactly.
make it a death sentence.
Well, yes, but it's a life sentence that she is. Yeah, upon his death, she is released from her imprisonment.
Or upon his death, he is released from his imprisonment.
They are mutually released from their prison, the prison that is their relationship. So Dan realizes what a treasure of a woman he has and that he shouldn't take her for granted, and asks her to dance. And the audience goes, "Aw," and they dance, and that's pretty much the end of the episode.
Roseanne at the first.
It's time for what's your favorite part of the episode?
I guess, yeah, they go to bed, and
I like the
That's
part
it.
when Dan had his little tie.
I like trying to cook popcorn on a heating blanket.
I like the fancy seafood buffet with the nets hanging. Like the Lanford Inn is a seafood buffet with nets hanging from the ceiling and a giant boat full of ice and like gross looking seafood.
They don't even have sushi in that boat. They just have seafood.
No, it's like
Sushi was
seafood
invented in
props.
1992. Everyone knows that.
I'm just saying, I hear boat and seafood, I think sushi.
Well, I think that concludes our episode for today. If you would like, you can like us on the Facebook, where we are located at Roseanne Retrospectives. You can follow us on the Twitter. Our Twitter account is Roseanne Retros. If you've listened to our previous 2 episodes, thank you. We appreciate that, but we've been saying our Twitter name wrong because we're idiots. It's not Rosie Retros. Don't follow Rosie Retros. It might not even exist. Please follow Roseanne Retros. So thank you and have a wonderful day.